Look, we all love hearing the stories about people making a fortune trading, right? But that's not what we're talking about today. Nope. We're going to dive into the uncomfortable truth about what it really takes to survive in the markets. And it's not about finding some secret formula, it's about surviving a statistical battle that, frankly, most people lose.
In that battle, it all starts with this number right here. According to all sorts of industry studies, only about 10 to 20% of new traders are still around after the first 3 years. I mean, think about that. That means a staggering 80 to 90% of people who give this a shot, they fail. They're gone, account wiped out. This isn't just an opinion, it's the documented reality of the game. So, right from the get-go, the most important question you have to ask yourself isn't, hey, how much money can I make? It's, which one of those groups am I going to be in? The 80% who vanish or the 20% who survive? Because your answer to that question changes absolutely everything about how you should approach this.
Now, this is usually where it all starts to go wrong. Inside what's called the expectation trap. It's this massive, dangerous gap between the dream of what trading could be and the day-to-day reality of what it actually is.
This chart just lays it out perfectly. On one side, you've got the dream, right? Doubling your money, a 100% return. A lot of new traders genuinely think this is achievable. But then, you look at the reality over here. The S&P 500, a benchmark for professional investors, averages maybe 8 to 10% a year. When your personal goal is 10 times higher than what the pros consider a good year, you are just setting yourself up for a world of hurt.
And you know what makes this trap even worse? Starting with a small amount of cash. If you start with a small account, making a realistic 10% return for the entire year, well, that's going to feel like nothing, right? So what do? You feel forced to take these massive risks. You crank up the leverage. You're basically swinging for a home run on every single trade just to see a number that feels meaningful. And honestly, that is a super fast track to blowing up your account.
Okay, so this brings us to a really important realization. The fight, it's not really against the market. It's not against the charts or other traders. No, the real battlefield, it's a lot closer to home. It's right between your ears.
And this right here really gets to the heart of the mental shift you have to make. See, a beginner is obsessed with finding something external, some magic system. They're constantly asking, what's the win rate? What's the secret sauce? But a survivor, someone who's actually made it, they know the real question is an internal one. Can I actually follow my system? The whole game shifts from finding a secret to enforcing your own discipline.
And listen, this isn't just some abstract theory. This is a direct quote from one of the sources we looked at. A lesson learned the hard way. Can you imagine that? Being down 80%? That is absolutely devastating. But it's in that moment of maximum pain, that the most critical lesson finally sinks in. The best system in the world won't save you if you can't control yourself.
So, if the problem is all in our heads, how in the world do we fix it? Well, we need a framework. We need a mental toolkit that's designed not just for making trades, but for pure survival. And that framework, used by a ton of veteran traders, is often called the 3M framework. Its power is really in its simplicity. It's all about forcing you to focus your energy only on the things you can actually control. And here's a little hint: the market's next move is not one of them.
Now, when beginners first hear about these 3 M's, that's method, money management, and mindset, this is almost always how they stack them up. They figure, okay, step 1, find the perfect method, the perfect strategy. Step 2, I'll worry about money management. And then step 3, if I get around to it, I'll think about my mindset. It seems pretty logical, right?
Yeah, but it's completely backward. The reality for the traders who actually make it is the total opposite, and this chart says it all. The method, the thing everybody obsesses over, the indicators, the chart patterns, that's maybe 10% of what actually matters. Your risk control, your money management, that's a huge 30%. But the lion's share, a massive 60%, is all about your mindset. Most traders fail because they spend 90% of their time on what is ultimately the 10% problem.
All right, so if you forget literally everything else we talk about today, I need you to remember this one thing. This is the single most critical lesson that separates that 20% who make it from the 80% who don't.
And that lesson is this: excellent risk management is everything. I'm serious. It's more important than your entry signal, your fancy indicator, or how often you win. And why is that? Because it is the only thing in trading that guarantees you get to show up and play again tomorrow. Look, you can't control if a trade is going to be a winner or a loser, but you can absolutely 100% control how much you're willing to lose if you're wrong.
That control, that is your superpower in this game.
And if you ever, for even a second, doubt how important controlling those losses is, just look at this. This is what we call the brutal, unforgiving math of recovery. If you lose 50% of your account, you don't just need to make 50% back to break even. No way. You need to make a 100% return on what's left just to get back to where you started. The deeper that hole you dig for yourself, the exponentially harder it is to climb back out.
So that leaves us with one final question. After seeing the real odds, the psychological traps, and that brutal math, is this really a game you're prepared to play? A game where a single big mistake could require a literal miracle to fix? Because if your answer is yes, then your #1 job isn't finding winners. It's making damn sure that one big mistake never, ever happens. And that is the uncomfortable but absolutely life-saving truth of trading.